At 4:20 in the morning, in Liangnong Town, Liaozhuzhang, a woman wakes up right on time. She boils water, cooks, reads for half an hour, and then pushes a 200-plus-pound cart loaded with goods through streets and alleys that haven't yet seen the light of dawn, heading to the market to set up her stall. She's lived this routine for a full 18 years. But one day, this woman did something that everyone found completely unbelievable. She packed up her stall, hopped onto a Suzuki 125 motorcycle, brought along a little dog, and hit the road with a beekeeper. From Zhejiang to Jiangsu, from Shandong to Liaoning, she traveled over 3,000 kilometers across more than 4 months, chasing flowers all the way. Her name is Chen-Hui, nicknamed Asan. She's a market vendor, a single mother, and a woman writer who managed to pen 5 books beside piles of cow dung. The book she wrote at age 45, Where the Flowers Are, isn't some romantic travel guide about spur-of-the-moment adventures. It's the story of a woman, worn down by life for half her years, giving herself a chance to breathe. Today we're going to talk about this journey of chasing flowers and explore what it allowed her to truly see. I'm Sunshine, and welcome to today's episode of Delusion. To understand why Chen-Hui decided to leave, we first need to look at her life before her departure. This woman's fate was extraordinary from the very beginning. When she was 3, she was adopted and spent 10 years with her adoptive parents. Her nickname was Ling Di, meaning to bring a younger brother. At the age of 23, she was diagnosed with an illness that required lifelong medication. At 27, she married someone far away, moving from Rugao, Jiangsu, to a small town in Liaozhuzhang. Married life was tough. She described that period as cold, like not even being able to afford a toothpick. In 2006, only 9 months after giving birth, she cradled her baby in her arms and, with merely a few hundred yuan in her pocket, started working as a street vendor at the market. Initially, she didn't even have a cart and had to leave home at 2 a.m. to secure a good spot. Later, she converted her son's old stroller into a cargo cart, which she pushed for 18 years. During the day, she sold her wares at the market. In the afternoon, she replenished stock, and at night, she finally had time to write. Without professional training or guidance, she began by writing diary entries on QQ Space simply because she felt too lonely. Over 5 or 6 years, she wrote quietly, and no one knew about it. Then, someone discovered her writings on a forum, describing it as finding hidden jade buried in mud. By 2018, she published her first book, The One Who Will Rescue You Will Come Eventually. Later works included The Little Ones in the Human World and At the Market Among Humanity, all focusing on the lives of everyday characters around her, those selling buns, slaughtering pigs, and catching snakes. She documented their struggles and their dignity. By 2023, Chen-Hui was 45 years old. Her son had grown up, and the market was still the same. Life hadn't changed much when she made an unexpected decision to follow a couple of beekeepers on a journey to chase the flowers. What followed was a 3,000-kilometer trip, starting from Cixi, Zhejiang, traveling to Jiangsu's East Taibiangang, then north to Tian Mountain in Shandong, onward to Wafangdian in Dalian, Liaoning, and finally reaching Changhyong in Baipiao, Liaoning. Over 4 months, she lived in tents, slept on folding camp beds, neighboring bees, and braving the wind and rain. During one night in Biangang, suddenly gale force winds hit, striking lightning repeatedly with such power that her tent felt like it would fly away. Alone inside, she truly realized for the first time just how fearsome winds could be. In Tian Mountain, she followed beekeepers to the local market, mingling with vendors and shoppers. So densely packed, she likened them to freshly unearthed potatoes scattered across the ground. At Wafangdian, with cornfields surrounding the bee farms, she watched as brightly colored pheasants flitted up and down among the crops. In Changhyong, all sorts of bugs appeared one after another. A horsefly bit her one day and returned the next, likely enjoying the taste of southern people. This wasn't some polished travel vlog. In her writings, Chen-Hui candidly described the experience: cow dung piles beside bee farms, countless flies buzzing around, and unknown bugs waking her at night with their bites. She said, "Don't romanticize poetry in distant lands. The faraway places I visit? They're not just poetry but also manure. Yet, amidst such rugged conditions, she would wait nightly for the beekeepers to extract royal jelly and then squat in her tent, typing out thoughts from the day under the light of her phone, one word at a time. For months later, she returned to the market and resumed pushing her cart weighing over 200 kilos. From the outside, it seemed like nothing had changed. But Chen Hui shared one incredibly touching sentiment. It's like someone diving underwater who surfaces for a breath before diving back down again. To others, it might seem like nothing changed, but the diver knows they've inhaled some fresh air, making them feel a bit better. This book's most powerful aspect isn't about the beauty of the distant landscapes. It's about answering a question many people ask themselves: can ordinary people, especially ordinary women tightly bound by life's routines, ever truly have the right to leave? The first core topic I want to discuss is about the right to leave. Our era especially glorifies the idea of just drop everything and go. 10 years ago, a teacher named Gu Shaoqiang wrote a resignation letter saying, "The world is so big, I want to see it," which instantly went viral. People shared it, liked it, envied it. But 10 years later, Gu Shaoqiang had wandered through many cities, eventually settling back in Zhengzhou. In contrast, Chen Hui's story isn't about making bold declarations. She isn't a white-collar worker quitting her job to travel the globe or a young person taking a gap year with savings. She's a single mother, a person who needs lifelong medication, someone who pushes a 200-kilo cart daily. Her departure wasn't an escape or rebellion against life. It was simply stealing a breath of fresh air from the cracks in her routine. Chen Hui admitted herself that she knows she's not brave. The truly brave ones are those who hold their ground and endure. She merely borrowed 4 months to briefly detach from the gears of day-to-day life, to see skies beyond the narrow view above the market. This kind of clarity is rare. Too often, narratives of departure either depict faraway places as salvation or the present reality as a cage. But Chen Hui rejects both extremes. She says that the faraway places still have manure and bugs. Upon returning, life is still there. Nothing is bigger than life itself. This is the valuable honesty of this book. It doesn't sell any illusions. It tells you leaving isn't about escaping, it's about returning with new perspectives. The second topic is about rough poetry. Reading Chen Hui's words brings a peculiar feeling. Her writing isn't literary, it might even feel coarse at times. She describes market crowds as freshly unearthed potatoes, horseflies finding southerners delicious, and the proximity to manure piles near bee farms. Yet as you read on, you'll notice a sturdy beauty embedded in these texts. This comes from her life experience. Chen Hui wasn't formally trained in writing. Her literary inspiration came from authors like Wang Zhengqi and Sun Li. If you've ever read Wang Zhengqi's pieces about cooking, pickling salted duck eggs, or wandering through markets, you'll understand her influences. They share a belief: beauty isn't far away, it's right here in the mud under your feet. When she writes about the beekeeping couple chasing flowers, there's no romanticized filter. They aren't poets from an idyllic pastoral scene. They're workers who've spent their lives under the sun and among bees. Yet within this rough, daily existence, Chen Hui perceives a kind of poetry. Bees migrate following the bloom from south to north, chasing the flowers wherever they blossom. Isn't this the purest reflection of life itself? To move with the seasons, to act on the instinct to live, not questioning meaning or expecting rewards. It makes me realize how many of us have lost the ability to feel rough poetry. We only search for beauty in polished photos and perfect captions, failing to notice the steam rising from market baskets or the sunlight glinting off a well-worn cart in the early morning. Chen Hui's writing feels like hands pulling your face back, forcing you to see the things you've already ignored. The third topic, and the book's most profound, is about how ordinary women make peace with themselves. If you list the events in Chen Hui's life, they seem like an unbroken chain of misfortunes: being given away, battling illness, marrying far away, enduring a cold marriage, divorcing, raising a child alone. Yet her writing conveys no resentment. She doesn't complain about fate or dramatize her hardships. Instead, her words carry a touch of dark humor when describing her struggles. She said she never wrote to become a writer, it was simply because of loneliness. At that time, nobody knew I was writing. I didn't aim to be a writer, I was just too lonely. For 2,600 yuan, she bought a DIY computer and started typing out her thoughts, word by word. Writing became her way of conversing with herself, a bridge to reconciling with the world. During her 4 months chasing flowers, this sense of reconciliation seemed to reach its peak. She grasped her smallness, yet also recognized her resilience. Those stormy nights, those lonesome evenings with only insect sounds, these moments turned into the most vivid passages of her writing. She didn't need the faraway places to prove anything. She simply confirmed in those places that she was capable. Chen Hui turned down people's attempts to brand her as a strong female lead. She said, "I don't like loneliness, but I've accepted it. Independence isn't isolation or opposition. It's using every legitimate and beneficial resource to improve myself." This line doesn't try to stir emotions, but it carries greater power than 100 cliched phrases like "be true to yourself." Because it wasn't born from a cozy study, it came from life at the market, from tents, from beside piles of manure. This book ultimately offers a particularly simple answer. Departure isn't about becoming a better person. It's about bringing more oxygen back to your original life and continuing forward. This is applicable to each of us. You don't need to quit your job, travel far, or do anything earth-shattering. You simply need to occasionally rise to the surface from the depths of everyday life, take a deep breath, and dive back in. That breath is the strength you need to keep going. Speaking of memorable quotes, this book holds several lines that make you pause and reflect. The first, it's like someone diving underwater who surfaces for a breath before diving back down again. To others, it might seem like nothing changed, but the diver knows they've inhaled some fresh air, making them feel a bit better. This is perhaps the most precise metaphor for the significance of leaving. It's not about coming ashore, but about catching your breath. The second, don't romanticize poetry in distant lands. The faraway places I visit? They're not just poetry, but also manure. Only someone who's truly been to distant places can say something so honest and funny. It instantly bursts all the romantic bubbles about faraway places, yet doesn't leave you disheartened. Instead you think, yes, so what if there's manure, the flowers are still blooming. The third, life is still here. There's nothing bigger than life itself. This sentence is like a quiet, steady rock, but its weight is immense. All departures, all journeys to faraway places, ultimately bring you face to face with this truth. The fourth, I don't like loneliness, but I've accepted it. In just 8 words, Chen Hui encapsulates half a lifetime's understanding. Not liking but accepting, it's not compromise but true maturity. At this point, I think it's time to reflect, what does Chen Hui's story mean for us? She's a woman who spent 18 years vending at a small-town market. Most people's lives would never intersect with hers. Yet what she does is something everyone needs, pausing to step out from life's inertia, even if just for a weekend, an afternoon, a walk, to notice the things we often overlook. Chen Hui pursued real flowers. For us, we each carry within us a field of flowers that we need to visit. It might not be 3,000 kilometers away. It might be on that old, unnoticed path just downstairs from your apartment. What matters isn't the distance, but whether you have the willingness to rise from the water and catch that breath. What touched me most about this book wasn't the scenery of distant places, but Chen Hui's calm upon returning. She didn't stop vending just because she published a book. She didn't stop identifying as a vendor just because she appeared on TV. She still wakes up at 4:20 a.m., still pushes her 200-kilo cart. But the light in her eyes, changed from before she set out, is unmistakably different. Maybe this is the true meaning of going to where the flowers are. The flowers aren't in some faraway place. The flowers are in the moment when you decide to live for yourself. If you've been feeling like life is a little dull, a little repetitive, or simply suffocating lately, try reading this book. It might not change anything, but perhaps it will remind you that you too deserve to catch your breath. If you found inspiration in this episode, please give it a like or leave a comment to tell me where your flower field lies in your heart. Alright, that's all for this episode. No matter when you're listening, I wish you good morning, afternoon, and evening. This is Delusion. See you next time.